You're listening to the Get Out and Surf podcast.
Just like, dude, you get the best barrels ever, dude. Just like you pull in and you just get spit.
Just
right
paddling out
of
into big surf, total commitment.
You can't just call time out and stroll on into the beach if you don't like the way things are going.
Occupation?
Surfer.
It turns out that there are still a few places right here on Earth that we haven't fully explored yet.
Is that a job, surfer?
Not really.
And then after that, you just drop in, just ride the barrel and get pitted, so pitted like that.
Hey, how's it going? This is Joe Walsh bringing you the Get Out and Surf podcast. This is episode 48, and it is December, boys. It's December. Do you know that?
First of.
It's December 1st.
It all just runs together for me.
I can't believe it. I feel like all of a sudden it's the last month of the year, and I'm thinking about 2020, and I'm like, you know, just trying to look at the future of things. And, I mean, man, there's been so much going on. I mean, in the last few weeks, we've been just preparing for high season. I feel like the whole month of November just flew by. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, it did. It really did.
Yeah. We've been getting some waves, though. The winds have been blowing offshore. There's been some good waves out in front. That's been helpful. But, I mean, geez, I don't know. I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, my gosh, time's flying by so quick. So...
Always tends to do at the end of the year. We get through to like September, October. It's really the low season. We have a little bit of a breather sometimes, and then all of a sudden, like November sneaks up, and then it's gone by, and then it's December 1st.
I know.
Well, you know, one thing with taking a breath like that, you got to be really careful that you don't get like too lazy in the low season, because we've always got something that we need to do to prepare for the high season. So our low season for the administrative staff and our staff period really isn't a low season. We're jamming to try to get ready for when the influx of people come, the big influx of people. So
yeah,
we're always changing. We're always moving forward here.
I feel like as a business gets bigger like ours, we need to make positive steps towards becoming more green, more sustainable. I know that's been a big conversation for us. I'm proud to say that we've implemented a pretty awesome new program with our packaging in the restaurant. Something that
it's not only the packaging, Joe. It's you know, trying to reduce our carbon footprint next to the beach, which the biggest natural resource we have is the ocean, and it pains us all to see the kind of pollution that can go into the ocean, and it can affect the environment.
Yeah, it's crazy because me and you, we went for a surf. When was it?
that was just a few days ago.
A few days ago. For some reason, we got out of the ocean, and because it was the northwest swell was coming in, or some tide, and it was just littered. And you'd walk down, and we found a bucket, and we started filling this bucket up, and we turn around and go back, and the tide had just brought in even more. And even more, it was just kept on coming and kept on coming. It was unbelievable.
Plastic is 100% a blight on society, and
it really is.
You know, so you know, we're saying that we're going green. You can't ever really say that you're totally green because it's almost impossible. You always have to look for alternatives to what it is you're using and try to adjust yourself so we're more friendly for the environment. But you know, we've done a lot of stuff like you know, things that are real pollutants are plastic spoons, forks, and knives.
Like the single-use type plastic.
Yeah, for the single-use stuff. And we found a provider, and what we've done is we still have spoons, knives, and forks that appear to be plastic, but what they are in fact is 100% cornstarch, and they're 100% biodegradable and compostable.
Yeah,
so that's an important step forward. In addition to that, for years we've been using the natural straw, which is the untreated natural cellulose paper that's 100% biodegradable and compostable. We all see those plastic straws on the beach for people buying pipas, and they throw those down thinking that they're going to be okay, but they're not okay. They get into the ecosystem, they get into the water, they decompose, the fish eat the byproduct of that, and it kills things.
Yeah.
So another thing that we moved towards was fixing our coffee to-go cups. Most of the coffee to-go cups, the reason that they stay warm and they don't burn you is because they have this wax or plastic film on the inside. Well, we've moved to cup sleeves, lids, and the cups that are made of untreated natural cellulose paper, and they're completely biodegradable. The lid for the top, I love seeing the lid to the top because in the recycling window it says 0. It's 100% cornstarch biodegradable, and it's environmentally friendly. So plastic bags, they're another blight on society. Well, we found a company that has given us the 4 different sizes that we use the most for our to-go, and it's made of 100% cornstarch, and it's 100% biodegradable and compostable. We haven't been able to eliminate all plastic bags because we're looking for some of the large industrial type bags that are a little bit more user friendly. Those are the things that we use for the big trash pickup. We've put recycling stations all over the camp.
Yeah.
We've done that at Pueblo Dorado. We've got 2 here at the camp. We've got a big series of them out in the green zone. And we're going to be doing some new stuff across the street, and it looks like we're going to stick one out there. We've got our staff moving in the right direction, being cognizant of the fact that they need to be mindful of what's getting thrown away and where it's going, and making sure that it's in its proper place. Yeah. So we're looking at all those things. We're not 100% yet. We're making sure that all of our soap products are biodegradable and friendly to the environment. All our cleaning materials. We're still going to, every once in a while I'll think that I've got it all solved, and I'll look and I'll see that there's something else that we need to do. But we're working on it. So we're not going to announce to the world we're green because we're not 100% green. There's always something that we need to improve, but we're sure trying to move in the right direction.
The hardest part was finding all of these vendors with these really specialized, biodegradable, sustainable products. So if you have a business here in Costa Rica, you're listening to this podcast, and you want to go in this direction, which, it's going to cost a little bit more, but it's the step you need to take. Feel free to email the podcast, getoutandsurfcr@gmail.com, and we'll pass over all of the contact info for all the vendors that we've been finding over the last few years. So we've been trying to go down this more sustainable direction.
You'll still be able to get what you think is a plastic cup of beer to go, but it's 100% cornstarch, 100% biodegradable and compostable.
And that's so important because we're right on the beach, and everybody gets that beer. They want to go out and watch the sunset. And that's always been a guilty, I'm not always able to sit in the restaurant and have a drink. And that's what happens when you're right there. So we're on the beach. We love it so much. The last thing we'd want to do is, and that's what would happen. You'd be, even with all of our trash cans, recycling bins, you have to fix it one step further up with that, what you actually are providing.
Yeah, it's not to say that things still don't litter. Like if you throw those cornstarch cups or the straws onto the ground or onto the beach, it's unsightly. It takes a while for that stuff to decompose. But the main thing is that if it happens to get into the waterways, it's a lot better off than some of the non-recyclable stuff, which many of the things that we have are in fact not recyclable.
Yeah, just because it is 100% decomposable doesn't mean you can just throw it on the floor and let nature deal with it. We've got to be responsible. I know we've spoken about it for a long time, and we're trying to change our culture, and that starts at home in our house, which is Rock Surf Camp. And I think it's important that we're making these steps because we're a travel industry business. And so, it's going to be hard for us to get our footprint down as much as we would like. But we are obviously always trying to find a way that we can reduce our carbon footprint.
Yeah, I've got to have a shout out right now to Trinidad and Martine, who I tasked with going out and beginning to work this for me. And they've done a magnificent job. Trinidad is like the queen of recycling. And I really frustrated both of them because they'd come to me with a plan and then I'd send them back out and do it again. Because you have to think of every single angle. And you can't just do, it's not just good enough. It has to be better than good enough. And so they were really patient with me. because I kept sending them back and telling them to, all right, give me a better product than that. And it's going to drive our cost of goods up a little bit, but it's short money for what I think is an important thing for the environment.
Yeah, well, there's always been that 1% for the Planet program that Yvon Chouinard founded. There's been, different ways in which our business has always tried to, give back. So it's not like this is a new thing. It's just in the past there's been very limited recycling options. Even if you had a recycling program for your business or in the community, at the municipal level, those things weren't necessarily getting recycled, because the higher up, isn't it true, the higher up the plastic sort of rating is, the harder it is to recycle? Aren't there
That's
five?
correct. That's correct. There's a whole a group of recyclables that are hard. There's the recyclable 7 is one of those categories for plastic that they throw things that they really are new, or they're not sure of how they're going to be handled, or if they can be recycled in the country that you're in. They'll throw a 7 on it. And some of the stuff that is in fact biodegradable and recyclable has a 7 on it. And that frustrated Trinidad and Martine a lot with me, because I kept saying, no, it's got to be a 0. We have to see a 0 in the symbol. And so
even when people were thinking they were recycling, if it was a higher grade plastic, it wasn't really recyclable.
Yeah,
in
it's
Costa
not
Rica.
Recyclable. And, in Costa Rica especially, it wasn't recyclable. There's only certain places that would take that stuff. So, when you recycle and when you put things in a dump, you're only as good as the program that is above you.
Yeah.
Costa Rica is getting really good with that. We can't even hang on to our cans or our bottles. The garbage pickers get them way before we even get them to the recyclable. Yeah, so the good news is our biodegradable stuff, our compostable biodegradable, if it will end up in the dump, and it will biodegrade because it's made of cornstarch. How quickly that happens, I'm not a scientist. However, it's not going to get into the food chain.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're looking at 2020. We're talking about the future, 2020 and beyond. And we did this project with Adam Greenman, who was on an earlier episode 31. And he'd started a surfboard line called Trim Surfboards, which he has. And he's been working on some really sustainable materials for surfboards and for fins. And so we worked with him. We put an order together. Nikki, how'd this go? We went to the board cage. We went to the surf school. We interviewed all the instructors. We interviewed the board cage staff. We talked to the guests, people in the program. We highlighted the most ideal shapes for softboards to give a lesson, right? Because sometimes you get a softboard, but it's too narrow, right? And then some of these are really wide, but they're too bulky.
Well, a lot of the surfboards, the old style, it was all about length. It's always about length, and now obviously volume is coming into play. So you've kind of got the length of the board, and like you said, the width is extremely important as well because it creates more stability. So we went through the entire board cage. We interviewed a whole bunch of guests and our instructors as well about what works best for them. And then we got some dimensions, put some measurements together, picked out the materials that we would like. Adam was more excited, I think, about the color schemes. He was trying to put these crazy pink flamingo boards and stuff like that.
Well, I told him we still might do that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I think I did the color order, unless you changed it after I made it.
It's okay. No, we're good with whatever we get.
But the idea is that we've got, I think 40 plus surfboards coming down. We've got a range of soft tops and also a range of hardboards as well.
Yeah, but the best part is this isn't just we made our own line of boards with Adam, but these are fully recycled material surfboards. Surfboards made with recycled materials.
Yeah,
they're fully recyclable after the lifespan of the surfboard.
So the materials can be recycled after the use of the surfboard.
That right there is what is the game changer. That is what I am so excited about. I mean, obviously, there's, we can continue down this path, and we will. But
yeah, because I think the next thing he was talking about was using hemp to make
for the fins.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, well, we don't have those boards right now, but they've already been built. They're on their way, and they will be here for next month. So the first month of 2020, we're going to have a line of recycled surfboards in the board cage, and That's pretty awesome. I'm like really excited about that. So that's a good,
Again,
on
all
the
these
horizon.
little programs that we're going to try, we've tried to implement and are working seriously well. The recycling program has just been it's nice to see around the camp, and we've got the recycling bins up at the brewery as well. And so these little projects that we're doing just to try and improve.
People are listening like, dude, you should have been had your recycling bins like 10 years ago. I mean, we have had recycling bins. I don't want to make it sound like we had it's like a brand new concept. I feel like maybe
We've been moving in the direction for years.
I know. Well, we have been.
And you're like I said, you're only as good as what the municipality offers you for the recycling program or for the composting program. And 10 years ago, there was nothing like that.
Yeah.
And, people have been doing this green thing for a long time. However, you're only as good as what the municipality gives you.
Yeah, so really when we talk about a recycling program, what we're really talking about is a biodegradable program.
Biodegradable, compostable, recyclable.
Yeah.
What's up?
Well, the other exciting thing is we had our first Northwest swell of the season.
Yes, we did.
I didn't really get to surf any of it because I had a bit of a bad back, but you definitely got some waves out in the river mouth.
Yeah, what's today? Sunday.
1st December.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so I would say probably Wednesday was the day. Tuesday and Wednesday. And it was the first Northwest swell, I'd say, this year that, was not at all, did not show up on Surfline or Magic Seaweed or anything. And those are the ones that Tamarindo really, it was well overhead down at the other end of the beach, down, in front of the Diria, at Henry's Reef, all of that stuff was lighting up. It was bigger than in front. And here in the river mouth, there was some bombs that came in. There's still, I was out there this morning and I went for a run and I came back just to check it. I was like, the tide was still going out, but it was looking pretty good. And so I snuck out for an hour, had a few good waves,
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be the bar right now. It seems to almost a draining tide. Because that river mouth has changed.
Well, that's the way it used to be.
It just changes all the time with the direction of the river and the sandbars and the direction of the swell. But it comes back every now and again. It shows its teeth every now.
Yeah, that's what this episode was going to be about. It was going to be about the Tamarindo river mouth. But we all got caught up talking about all the sustainability stuff, which is important. But really, we're here to talk about surfing. We're talking about the river mouth and all of its characteristics, its moods, right? Because it used to be a completely different hollow barreling, 5 years ago.
For a couple of years in a row.
And it will come back again. It'll be like that again.
I just hope that I'm still able to. I'll be in a walker by the time that comes back,
So
Get out of my way, son. I'm going to hit you with my cane.
Stand-up paddleboard and
All right, well, so 2011 till about 2014, maybe a little later, there was 2 or 3 years in there where draining right barrels, some of the best barrels we'd ever seen. And that happened in the early 2000s too. So, maybe every 5 to 7 years it'll come back for 2 or 3 years. It's just sand, and so the river mouth isn't necessarily just one wave. It's most well known for that barreling right that comes in. But the Tamarindo river mouth is actually a series of waves. It's the waves that are created by the channel of water that flows in and out of that estuary, and I think it's the flow of that water which is the most important element when you talk about the river mouth. What makes that, what unique attributes does it have? And it has this current. If you go out there with an outgoing tide, all of the water from the estuary is draining out, and you're an hour to 3 hours or 4 hours after high tide, and you can't even stay in the same spot. If it's a really high tide, you go into a really low tide. And so the other thing is that it faces towards the northwest, almost better than anywhere else, except for maybe the reefs in Tamarindo. And there's not a lot of spots in Costa Rica that really face that direction, which is kind of does in Tamarindo Rivermouth, which I don't know anywhere else that picks it up as good, really. In the whole,
whenever
country.
that was really firing, you've got all of the kind of other surf characters from the other beaches around the area, and they would actually be right there, and you'd be it's the only time you would ever see them come to Tamarindo when that river mouth was absolutely firing. Yeah. And it's always interesting because, that always seems to be how we like the river mouth is when it's kind of that draining right-hander is when the river kind of returns more to the north and has kind of this more direct, straight route out. And then I remember when, I can't remember what year was that, when that changed. Was it must have been about 2015, 16?
Yeah.
Where it started to come a lot more south. and all of a sudden there was this huge, long, peeling left-handers coming up. To,
Yeah, I've got some aerial photos of like a left, looks like a left point break wrapping all the way. And that's in the summer months.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that with the south swell.
Yeah, so I mean, it's still the river mouth because that's where the mouth of the river is. But those bars and that series of and it's only a shame when it does get like that because it consolidates all the surface in one spot really. Because we're quite lucky where we've got peaks from where the Pico Pequeño is to the river mouth is a really good spot there for the beginners and where the little lessons are placed. But then when the river comes south a little bit, the waves can get a little hairy, and like that's when the kind of like beginners and advanced sort of surfers kind of mix. And so it acts for like a little bit more of a vibrant lineup. Yeah.
All right. Well, so it does change, but we'll talk about the lineup and how it is right now. Like this season, we just had our first northwest swell. There's like 2 rights out there right now. There's a much deeper one, and then there's like one that's actually kind of close to where the lifeguard tower is. That's what I noticed out there. And sometimes the real deep one will connect all the way across. But usually, like, most of the waves are still pretty fast. You have to pick and choose. And this morning, it was going to a dead low tide, and it's getting really dredging. It's going from deep to shallow on a real low tide. So there were some barrels, and there were some open waves. You can,
I think the way it is now, it has this character where, and it doesn't do this all the time, when all of a sudden, it can just start to turn on. And you're just sitting there watching. You've got to keep an eye on it and keep looking at it all through all the tides. And all of a sudden, it can just, combined with the right spot, it can just really start to turn on. You get this opportunity where you get like, I don't know, a few waves without anyone else out until someone else realizes that what's going on.
Yeah, it's actually one of the most unique spots because it doesn't really face anywhere. It kind of faces towards the side of the beach where no businesses or houses are really right on the beach there. And it's kind of breaking at an angle if you're in the beach parking lot. So it looks smaller when it can be bigger, or sometimes there's a wave and you don't even realize it because it's so far over. It's on the other side of the river. It's like a left maybe that's breaking way over there. So, so basically the tides aren't so, like low tide, there can be a wave out there sometimes. When it's a dropping tide, there can be some current. So if it's a low tide with the tide coming in, that's probably, it's probably even better because there isn't any current. At high tide, usually it's a little bit fatter, maybe like a longboard, where at low tide you really want like a shortboard. It's really fast. But again, like that can change too. You can be longboarding on a low tide and shortboarding high tide if it's a big swell.
Yeah.
So,
she can be a fickle mistress. That's for sure. It can suddenly be all time, and then.
Okay, so we basically said there's no perfect tide nor board to surf the river mouth. You just have to kind of always check it, and you might get rewarded.
Yeah, I mean, I think most river mouths are like that because they will change so much. You go to Playa Grande, main peak does move up and down, but it's generally the same. If you see a picture of a wave from Grande, you know that's Grande or Marbella or wherever. But the river mouth has got so much uniqueness each time of the year, time of the season, or throughout the years. Within itself, it changes.
Yeah, there's been some great lefts too lately, so it isn't just rights coming in out there. And these winds blowing offshore, definitely the time of year, the winter months.
I'm really looking forward to this offshore wind season.
Yeah, well, it's already been a lot of offshore winds in the last month of November, and that northwest swell that hit at least 5 days ago is still bringing in waves. So, if you're coming out of Tamarindo this high season, definitely check it out. Unless I'm out there, and then you should probably just go over to like in front of the parking lot, or just come surf with us. Just come over and we'll talk about the podcast.
Yeah, everybody, come on, more the merrier, more the merrier.
Anything else we want to talk about?
The climate change. Goddamn Republicans. Goddamn climate change.
I think we might just end it on that. It's pretty funny. Anything else?
Well, I think we're all excited about the upcoming season.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm excited about the upcoming season, you know what I mean? We got, what is this, episode 48?
I think so, yeah.
So we've only got a few more to get to 52, and, we'd love to hear everyone's feedback on where you think where you think we should take the podcast. We need that type of feedback for us to grow.
I got the next surf spot destination for us.
All right, is this am I
The Strait of Juan de Fuca.
Okay,
You know where that's at?
No need to swear.
Juan de Fuca?
Yeah, but that's the body of water between Washington State and British Columbia. That's where we're going.
You remember how cold England was? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Do you remember how cold it was?
I remember I didn't have a 5'4".
No, you didn't have a 5'4".
And I didn't have a hood or booties and gloves. But yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? I'll serve colder water. I got no problem with that. Really, I think it's probably good for you to serve some cold water.
All right, so that's got to have some killer whales.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like Native American land, so the access is a little tricky. But it's apparently there's some really solid northwest swell that far north, and the strait is wide enough that the waves can reach really far up into the Gulf. So, like even like 50, 80 miles inland, there's some waves, which is pretty crazy in my mind to be surfing in the San Juan Islands, which is, far from the ocean. There's like a really lot of raw nature and wilderness still up in that area. And I think there's some pretty solid waves too.
Is there bears?
I'm sure there's bears. Of course there's bears.
I'm so scared of bears.
There's probably great white sharks too. But they'll be fighting with the killer whales. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do killer whales and sharks fight? Are they friends?
No. A killer whale will eat a shark.
A killer whale will eat a shark?
Yeah.
A great white shark?
I'm sure it's hungry.
Pat, what do you think? A great white
I
shark?
don't know if there's any data that indicates that there's ever been a fight between a great white and a killer whale.
Oh, come on. Just YouTube it. I'm sure there's a bunch. Like 20 million views, Killer whale versus great white shark. Ever seen it?
My mind is on the killer whale.
Yeah. Before we look at it, killer whale, one?
Well, I know one thing that I've seen those videos of the killer whales beaching themselves to grab a baby harp seal.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, it is. Still remember that from when I was a kid, those National Geographic videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super smart.
Hey, don't dolphins fight off sharks, though? Isn't there like some isn't there some sort of dolphins against sharks or whales?
They'll feed together. Depends.
Huh?
Yeah, well, they usually chase off the sharks. They don't like them.
The dolphins do?
Yeah, the dolphins.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
So,
But they will feed together if there's obviously enough. Wow, this is a really informative episode.
You didn't know any of this?
No, I've heard of stories, and I mean, you see stuff on YouTube where this woman that swims with whales, and this whale was trying to put her up on the surface, and she had no idea why, and she was getting really scared, and there was this huge tiger shark circling down below her, and the whale was literally trying to push her back to the boat and trying to protect her and shield her from the shark. I've seen that video, but my money's still on the killer whale.
How do we know that was what the whale was doing?
Yeah.
Did we interview him after that?
No, we didn't. We didn't interview him. We didn't have any waterproof equipment.
There's a really cool whale video that was going around the internet this last week of this giant, I want to say it was like a giant gray whale that was swimming underneath a lineup of surfers in maybe Doheny, Orange County, California.
Yeah, I saw that,
You see that?
clip of that, yeah.
On CNN.
I don't remember where it was, but it's kind of cool.
Some high school kid, I think, with a drone just messing around caught that. And
it's photoshopped. Fake news. Goddamn Republicans, goddamn.
All right, so hey, speaking of Rivermouth, I'm going to go check it again because there were some waves when I was out there.
I got a sneaky feeling it's turned on shore.
The waves? The wind?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah. It was swirling around yesterday. It turned on shore yesterday when we were at Casitas.
All right. I'm gonna okay. Enough of this Irishman talk. That
Sorry.
was a good movie, though. The Irishman was a good movie. The ending was a little bit like... Oh, you don't know about that?
Oh, I haven't seen it. Come on.
Okay.
I've been quiet about Once
We'll
Upon a
talk
Time in
about the
Hollywood.
Irishman in the next podcast.
Okay. All right. Peace. Thanks for listening to the Get Out and Surf podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Witches Rock Surf Camp, located beachfront in Tamarindo, Costa Rica. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the show. You can do that on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc. And if you like the show, give us a review on iTunes. That would be great. That's it. We'll see you next week, same place, same time, with another episode of Get Out and Surf. Pura vida y nos vemos.